As suggested, it's only been a week into this war, but already American expectations seem to be shifting a little bit. Are those shared in any way by the soldiers of the 3rd?
Well, I don't know about the soldiers. I think the commanders are somewhat frustrated. This is, after all, a heavy armored division. They are at their best going up against another heavy armored division. They are just itching to engage with some of these Republican Guard divisions. What they are not designed to do is to fight sort of hit-and-run guerrilla tactics of the sort that I was describing at the top of this broadcast. And I think that's part of the frustration. They've been bogged down doing what they weren't designed to do, and they haven't been able to get into doing what they have been designed to do.
So in at least that one limited sense, can you say that Saddam's tactics are working?
Well, as you indicated, Chris, it's only 1 week into this war. I think if this continues to be the case 2 weeks from now, a month from now, a month and a half from now, then we can say, yes, the tactics are working extremely well. Basically, the hope now, as I told you at the outset, was that the 82nd and the 101st Airborne will come in and they will start to screen on Najaf, and then the 3rd will be free to move north and to engage some of these Republican Guard divisions armor on armor. Whether Saddam is going to fulfill that expectation remains to be seen. I have a terrible feeling that we may be confronting something just like this, only 10 times worse, when we ultimately get to Baghdad.
The Pentagon is already sending reinforcements. Military officials saying today that another 100,000 ground troops are expected inside Iraq. Is it your sense that the 3rd could use some reinforcements? Is the division stretched thin in any way?
Well, they're stretched thin only in the sense that they need to leave forces behind. I mean, some forces have to be left behind in place to guard cities like Nasiriyah, like Al-Najaf. Again, the problem is they don't want to go into these cities because they don't want to become engaged in urban fighting. They don't want to go into Al-Najaf in particular because it is a very holy city to the Shia population down here, and they don't want to be perceived as not respecting the holiness of that city. But some troops are going to have to screen those cities. Otherwise, these long convoys of ammunition, food, fuel, water that are going to be needed once the 3rd moves on up north, those convoys are going to become extremely vulnerable.
So it is in the rear where reinforcements may be needed more than any place else.
I think that's exactly right, Chris. Basically, what we're talking about here is the 3rd Division just needs to be able to fight the kind of war that it was designed to fight. I talked to a few members of the 3rd Division after this first week of their fighting. We'll have that story when we come back. 36 years ago, I remember standing on a hilltop at Con Thien in South Vietnam. A Marine colonel was explaining why his 155 and 175 millimeter artillery batteries were firing one round after another into the surrounding jungle. It was, he said, H&I fire, harassment and interdiction. That was a common tactic in those days, but more often than not, it meant that the gunners didn't know what they were firing at or what, if anything, they'd hit. Artillery fire is a whole different art form these days.
Fire mission! Fire mission! Fire mission, 1 round, 17 Alpha! Fire! I see you later. 1 round, 3,000, 4,000, retract! Indicate a black, good on that, everybody! I see red, okay? Mission fire!
These self-propelled 155 millimeter howitzers are from the 1st Battalion, 41st Field Artillery. They provide the 3rd Infantry Division's fire support. What's called steel on target.
Our average times thus far throughout the conduct of this war, we've been around from the time an observer acquires a target out there and we clear it for fire, and is about 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and we've got rounds on target.
As the battle progresses, the forward observers, eyes on military intelligence, they develop the data, they get the data, and they filter it down to your lower echelons. Even at the lowest level, which we are capable of tracking hundreds of units. We know where those units are at by icons located on our map here.
When higher or the maneuver elements up ahead of us call for mission, we verify that the target plots safe and is not going to commit our worst nightmare of fratricide. Safety is my #1 goal, and I'm in here to verify that he and I are providing safe, accurate, timely fires.
This is what processes all the data that we send out to the guns, which helps us better support the maneuver that's up front. We can track all the NFAs, which are no fire areas, which are areas that we plot around friendly troops to make sure we do not deliver artillery fires on the friendly forces. We also can track air corridors so that as our rounds are flying through the air to get to where they need to go, they don't impede with any of the air support that are out there also.
Compared to the old system we had, this is Star Wars in advancement.
Keeping these weapons clean in the sand and grit of the desert is no easy feat. It requires much of the gun crew's attention,
All aboard!
but there's still time for a little occasional harmonizing.
All aboard! All aboard! For East Side! All aboard! All aboard! For East Side High!
But the danger of their job is never far away. On the horizon, high explosive rounds cook off. Another Paladin howitzer misfired and exploded yesterday, but its crew escaped serious injury.
Our observers are reporting a lot of destroyed vehicles and enemy soldiers. I mean, they're observing them. We've got systems that allow us to see out there, and they can clearly observe the effects. And we've had numerous vehicles destroyed, both tanks and APCs and technical vehicles. Those are the ones, the Toyota trucks, basically, with the mortars and stuff mounted on the back, and they've reported us destroyed. In fact, I've heard my observers say, "My God, I can't believe what the impact of the artillery rounds are doing to them."
When we come back, I'll be talking to a few of the young soldiers who have just experienced their first week of war. For many of these young soldiers, this is their first real experience with war. It has now been just a little over a week. I asked some of them what that first week had been like for them. Joe, where are you from in the world?
I'm from a small town in Ohio, MacArthur, Ohio.
Did you ever go and have a couple of beers with the guys?
Yeah, I'm too young to drink, sir.
Oh, you're too young to drink?
I'm only
so
19.
Where do you hang out with your friends?
Just wherever.
So there you are in Talladega County, Alabama, and you're at your favorite pub. You're sitting with a couple of buddies over a cool one, and they're saying, so what was that first week like?
I'm going to tell them it was quite intense. It's like, you know, the first big game. There's a rush there.
Everybody's going to be nervous. It's not something, you know, you actually predict yourself being in, but this is your job. This is what you're trained to do.
You've got butterflies like that first big game you're going to pitch, or
it's hard to exactly say what are you going to do, because until you find yourself in that situation. But we just react and hopefully work out for the best.
This is no baseball game, is it?
It's not a baseball game.
I was very nervous for the first week. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what am I doing over here, you know?
The first 7 days was kind of scary because we really didn't know what to expect, but you know, we pulled together as a team, we helped everybody through it, and we got through it.
What was the most frightening thing about the past few days?
The most frightening was when those mortar rounds came. That was really frightening.
It's like the movies. You have rounds hitting the ground, people hitting the dirt. You got everything's real fast paced. You're kind of scared, but you're excited too, because it's like, man, this is unbelievable. This is the real thing, you know, because I don't think you comprehend that you're at war yet, or until you get that first round that hits right next to you, and it's like, man.
I was like, yes, I was a little nervous, a little scared, but if you wasn't, then you know something's wrong, because not any man can tell you once the bullets hit the start flying at you, that you could not go be nervous.
So you're back in your favorite gin mill in Chesapeake, Virginia. You're sitting there with a couple of your buddies, and they say, so what was that first week like?
I'm going to tell them it was kind of rough. Not what I expected. I've been on deployments before, but nothing like this.
What was different? What was rough?
Well, somebody was actually shooting back. Never had that ever happen before.
So what do you think would happen when you crossed the berm?
Oh, I thought it was all going to break out. And in a couple places it did. So somebody shooting back and actually attempting to kill me is totally different.
What kicks in then? The adrenaline, the training, everything?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. When stuff starts going down, I tend to move a lot faster. Remember almost everything that I learned back in basic. It's just like everything just pops straight in your head. It's like, oh, okay. I remember I do this. Things start moving quick. Thinking 1,000 things at the same time. So, but I knew we were training. We were ready. So
give me the first two or three things that flash through your mind.
I can't believe this is happening to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm truly in Iraq.
When we come back, once again, my colleague, Chris Bury.
The official line, and we've heard it many times now, is that the Pentagon is not surprised by the resistance Iraq's forces have put up on the battlefield. But tonight's ABC News poll suggests the American public is beginning to think differently. Just 4 days ago, only 12% said they found Iraqi resistance tougher than expected. Now, 28% say they think the Iraqis are putting up a tougher fight. Today, President Bush once again said that Allied